we have to remember that sports is a unifier, and we have to embrace it as that.
Goalkeepers, Christian from keeperstop.com. We have a special guest for us. We have Saskia Webber, former World Cup champion. Saskia, say hello.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Pride.
We are celebrating Pride Month. We are celebrating diversity. We want to encourage inclusion with our conversation today because of our formats, because of Saskia's importance in the goalkeeper community and experience. I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
So am I. It's good to be here.
Saskia is an All-American goalkeeper from Jersey, played professionally with the New York Power, Philadelphia Charge, former Olympiad, World Cup winner 1999, UCLA assistant and goalkeeper coach. She is a star and co-star of the Inside the 18 podcast, also an investor in Angel City FC. Look for her and the Angel City Girls 2022 season. And for me, she is an influence and role model for many. So appreciate you being here.
Thank you. That's awesome. You should be my publicist.
And from the goalkeeper community, happy belated birthday.
Thanks.
Just happened.
Thank you. No, it's great to be here. It's an incredibly great month, but it's also an important month. I love that my birthday falls in the same month as Pride, but it's really important that how times have changed so much since I was playing that inclusion is just such an important word, an important action that we do in sports, not only soccer, but just across the board in life. So I'm glad you guys asked me to be here.
Yeah, we love it. And honestly, I mean, my experience of how I interact with the world and the world interact with me is different for you in a variety of reasons, right? From, ethnicity to, your relationships to your just on-field and off-field experiences. And I think that's why it's important for us to be here. And I want to say this right now to everybody that's watching this. This is here for us and for you and for your goalkeepers and your field players and your children to be educated, right? We don't have an agenda. We don't have something we're trying to jam down your throat. What we're trying to do here is help everybody celebrate diversity, celebrate what makes us special, that makes us different, that brings us all together. I mean, Saskia, I don't know how you feel about that, but what I want to do is I truly want to have an open conversation, be honest, and help make a difference and multiply our message and our conversation through others.
Well, I mean, absolutely, and I love it, and we have to remember that sports is a unifier. And we have to embrace it as that. It's one of the greatest things in the world because no matter what's going on in the world, when you put people on a sports field, on a tennis court, in a pool, on a soccer field, whatever, it's just about the sport. And it's been the first forum to really start to embrace equality and not have division, divisiveness. And I think that, we have to keep going. Of course, there's racism. Of course, there's sexism. Of course, there's everything above the board in sports. We're dealing with that. It's why we take a knee before the whistle blows to identify that. But it's also such a powerful beacon to bring out so many messages. And, this is just one of them. The podcast is awesome and it's just one of them, but, watching those players and just bring up something random, watching the whole world rally around Christian Eriksen, I know but it's about inclusion. It's not about diversity, it's about care. It's about love. And that's what Pride Month's about. And that's what we shouldn't have to have a month. To have Pride,
100%. Women's Month, Black History Month, Pride Month.
We shouldn't
be a year.
We shouldn't need it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%. I mean, it's a start, but we shouldn't need it. Love for you to share with us and the goalkeeper community what you're proud of on and off the field.
Obviously, I'm beyond proud of winning the World Cup in '99, of the '96 Olympics. even of losing in the World Cup in '95, which we don't talk about that much. Those were the teams I was on. But I'm more proud of the people I played with. And I'm more proud of saying that I have all those sisters that supported me on and off the field. The reason we won the World Cup in '99 was because we're a family and because we accepted each other. For our diversity, whether we were gay, whether we were Black, whether we were Asian, it didn't matter. We were teammates, we were soccer players, and we all looked at each other equally and the same. That's why we succeeded. And that message, like, we take through our lives with each other, and we bring it to the world every day that we can. And so that is probably one of my proudest things on and off the field when it comes to soccer, is to be called a 99er and to be a part of that group of women.
That's amazing. I remember watching it and just the passion that you guys had and just the camaraderie. You could just see how much you guys loved each other and you loved the sport and you loved what you were representing.
We still talk every day. If I turn this on, you would see every player, and there's just text every day. Every day, somebody's talking and we're all answering. We're family.
So just based on our conversation points today, I think it's important for the goalkeeper community that's watching is to understand your family background. Can you share with us?
Yeah, I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey. I grew up to an incredibly awesome hooligan Dutch mother. That's a huge soccer fan. And I'm African. My mother is white, blonde hair, green-eyed, from Holland, and my father's African American. My family has had lineage in Princeton for over 100 years. Originally from Tennessee. The majority of my African American side of my family grew up in Princeton. So, and the rest of my white side of my family, my Dutch side of my family, was in Holland. So, just growing up in such an affluent community and such an open community was amazing. But having that diversity and just going through the bumps and bruises with that when I was younger, I think gave me the strength to, when I came out, to handle that as well. Anything thrown at me, any negativity, any slurs, I had already gone through it when I was a kid. And this is a very upfront and candid conversation, so we can have it. I mean, I have crosses burned on my front lawn and, to every name you could be called in the book. So I think that gave me the strength and a backbone, as well as my family, who's so supportive of everything, to, for me, it wasn't a major hurdle to come out, because I had that strength and support.
That's amazing. It's unfortunate, it's the world we live in sometimes, and here sitting in my home in Connecticut, you don't think it's a reality, but it still happens.
But you grew up in one of the most, you wouldn't think, one of the most affluent communities. I lived outside of Princeton, but still, it can happen anywhere. And I think that's what we need to talk about with anybody listening and watching. And you don't know it's happening if you just turn a blind eye to it. And we've talked about that with the U.S. team and stuff, and the discrimination that me and my other teammates that were, of different ethnicities faced while we were traveling on the road. And even when we had come out and stuff, and there was never a conversation. The beauty of this now, and the beauty of where we are in society now, is now we're having conversations about it, and we need to.
So a question I want to ask, and I think it's important for the few moms and dads that are, watching here, is when did the discrimination or the names, when did it start for you, or when did you start recognizing it?
Oh man, when I was a kid, I mean, this is even before I had come out. So, Pride Month to me is not just about being gay or being with the LGBTQ community. It's about being, mixed race. It's everything. And so for me, since I can remember, I used to have to be walked home from school. My mom would take off work early, walk me home to school, because I would be threatened and stuff. And a lot of that is just children not understanding, misinformation, because I was light-skinned Black, and I got called every name you could possibly imagine. And with that being said, I found my solace. I found my acceptance in sports. And so I joined swim team, probably one of my first teams. I joined the swim team. Fine. My brother was a big swimmer, joined the swim team. Played baseball, not softball, played baseball, and played soccer. And I found that once I was on those teams, it was just about me and playing, and if I could play. I mean, it wasn't that perfect, but it was the first time I found acceptance as I was growing up that I can remember.
So I feel like, as outsiders, we see how, whether it's other adults or fans interact with players, and we witness that, discrimination, right? We witness that bias. Did you experience it as a youth? Whether it's because of skin color or sexual orientation, as a youth?
Absolutely. I remember getting, you remember when we were younger, our age, we'd have host families when you go to tournaments, right? Right. So you'd stay with one of the local club teams. They'd bring two of your kids in, and they were their host family. I remember getting the boot out of one of the houses because for my skin color. So I ended up having to go stay at the hotel with my coaches. But then when I started identifying as gay and I came out, that's when I first started noticing girls on the team uncomfortable. When I was in college, we would be done, and this is in college at Rutgers, so we would be done playing a game and the girls wouldn't take their underwear or bras off to take a shower after a game before we were like getting on the bus to drive home. And I'm like, and nobody's looking at you. And I'm like, but it was that nod to, you're making me uncomfortable because I know you're gay. And I'm like, I mean, come on, you guys, like, you're my friends. Like, it doesn't work that way. And so, that was something to deal with. It was hard to deal with stuff like that because it's not being accepted. Once again, it's not being accepted. And I used to just pick a shower in the back corner and say, I'm not wearing my underwear and my bra in the shower. I'm going to take a shower. This is ridiculous. And the funny thing about that, it's not funny. It was horrible. But the thing about that is several of those players that did that to me are all now gay, have come out. So we have to look at the things of whatever people are battling inside themselves, which is what makes them uncomfortable as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to refer to at what age did you come out? And at that time, there's a lot of people going through the same issues. They're what they prefer, what they like, what they don't like. Forget about same sex or different sexes or whatever. I mean, there's so much confusion.
Everybody needs a coming out period. You can't expect anybody to accept you right off the bat. I'll get back to that. I always knew I was gay. I think I would say that. I mean, I have had boyfriends and everything. I'm, for a thing and my own thing, I guess I could say bisexual with a preference. I don't know. Like, there's so many gray areas. I made that one up myself. I live my life as, gay now, as a lesbian. I have a wonderful partner and everything. So, but people sometimes I think are surprised at my past, and I'm like, I've had boyfriends, guys, stop. I would say I was 15 when I had my first girlfriend, and certain friends around. Like, I started hanging out with the lesbian community, the LGBTQ community. Back then, it was just the LGB community. Like, it's grown, which I love, and then I came out to my parents when I was a freshman in college. It was no surprise. And very welcoming, like I said. My brother, I love my brother. He's awesome. And I never came out in a sense. Like, when I was with the national team, I was like, hey guys, I was always very kind of casual with the way I led my life. It's like we were talking about husbands or boyfriends at a table with the US team. I was talking about my girlfriend. And I never made things like a big deal or an issue, which is the way I handled it. I think that made people more comfortable around me in that time. It wasn't, I didn't make things awkward, but that's just me. I'm not saying that's a right or wrong way to go about it. It's just the way I went about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all going through things, right? I think it's important for the viewers to recognize that you had different, issues at different times, right? And when I mean issues, meaning that, you were dealing with, racism initially, and then you were able to get sort of comfortable with, not comfortable, but process and figure out how to respond, right? And then you had to go through another transition period with gender or sexual orientation.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important for people to understand that regardless of skin color, regardless of sexual orientation, there are the ebbs and the flows, there's the highs and the lows, there's a period of time when it's difficult for you as well as others to assimilate, right? Or to understand.
I've been called names on the field from, I hate throwing these names out there. They shouldn't even be in our verbiage, or, from like dyke or this or that or the other, racial names and slurs. And I never spoke up. You just pass it on in a sense. And then, we had a trip to Paris. My first trip to Paris, actually. And I can't speak for other people. It's their story, not my story to tell for them. But I was with two other teammates. One who also is a lesbian, but again, I can't speak for other people. And we had a half a day to go into Paris, and we were shopping around, and we went off. We had one other teammate with us. And we went into Yves Saint Laurent. We were three Black players, and we went into Yves Saint Laurent, and they can come after me if they want, but I don't care. And we got kicked out. They wouldn't wait on us. It was like a scene out of Pretty Woman. I swear, it was literally the scene out of Pretty Woman, and it was hard to deal with. I wasn't sure if we were getting kicked out because I looked really butch, and they thought I was a lesbian, and my other teammate, or because we were Black. I think it was all encompassing. But it was a scene out of Pretty Woman, and it was harsh, and nobody knew about it. And I never said anything. I don't think my other two players ever said anything. And it actually,
at that moment, how did it make you feel?
It made me feel, it made me not want to say anything, because I didn't want anybody to judge me on my team. I didn't want anybody to judge me as a problem. I didn't want people to say, oh, we have to deal with this issue. They've been discriminated against. How do they feel? We have to talk. I didn't want that. You just want to be judged on how you played. And so the fear of being, oh, well, do we really want to bring Saskia on this trip again? Because last time we had the racial issue or the lesbian discrimination issue or whatever. And it's behind closed doors. It's a headache. So why don't we leave her home? Like, that's where your fear goes as a player. So you don't say anything, which is the absolute wrong thing to do. So I regret not saying anything then. And I've talked about it now, but that's how it made me feel. Like I wanted to just shut up and hide.
Yeah. Right now, me hearing this, I want to crawl up and, it's hard to listen to, and I couldn't imagine you going through this. And it's important for us to hear these stories because players or people experience these every day, much worse. And, I think it's important for people to understand, how you felt at the time. And, my follow-up question to you is like, now, us being a little bit more open-minded in general to society, and we're having these conversations, how would you have responded to some of these issues of whether it's, being gay or being African, part African-American, how would you have dealt with these differently? Would you have said something? How would you have addressed the issue?
I think that what wasn't in place back then, which I know speaking with, Kate Markgraf and other people, is being put in place now, and the Players Association and stuff, I think there was no place to go to talk to it. So we have to take that into consideration. Like, what outlets are we giving to our players and our kids to go talk to somebody about something like this that happens? Am I going to go talk to the coach? The coach is like, I don't know if, my relationship with the coach, how it is, or I probably could have, but you know what I'm saying? There has to be an outlet for kids, adults, everybody to go. And in business, that's HR. That doesn't always work either, hate to tell you. And we're seeing that, it's, systemic discrimination across the board. So that might not be a safe place, but we have to create places for people to go. And I would tell you I didn't feel that there was a place. I could have gone to my captains. I love them to this day. I don't really know if that would have solved anything other than me just kind of bitching about it. But there has to be a place to go so that things can be handled. So next time we don't go to that tournament, or next time we make sure that their federation knows that this is going on to our players. So we have to create those places. That's still something we need to work on every day, across the board.
Hearing some of those examples makes my heart ache, and it's just too bad that we have to, still hear those things today. But, right, it's the reality. It still happens. You're an adult now. Mm-hmm. You've learned to deal with them. There's things in place for us to talk about it. But there's a lot of people, a lot of kids that are on the field or in the locker room that are experiencing, whether it be sexual orientation or racial issues. What would you tell 17-year-old Saskia Webber on how to resolve something they didn't like or felt uncomfortable with?
Speak up. 100% speak up. And that was, things are changing, and it's slowly, but things are changing. If I could put Landon Donovan as an example, last year before the pandemic, when they were playing down in San Diego, one of the players was, there was a bunch of homophobic slurs sent out at the player. And he spoke up. He spoke up at halftime, and Landon went to the coach of the other team, if I remember everything correctly, asked them to bench that player that said it from the other team. He refused to do it because the win was more important to that coach. Landon pulled his team off the field. And I know a lot of people might see that as extreme. It's not extreme. If you had a bunch of players running around using the N-word, it's just as bad as homophobic slurs. It's just as bad. So we have to stand up for that, and we have to stand up for the players, the kids, everybody that have the confidence to come and talk to us about it. Our job as youth soccer coaches is to teach. It's not to win, it's to teach. And if you care more about, winning your tournament than you do about teaching your children, teaching the world the right thing to do, then you should not be a coach. You should not be allowed to be around children. I'm sorry. Your job is to mentor, not to win games. And that goes across the board. I'm sorry. It goes across the board. It goes up the ladder. In my opinion.
At 3 years old, we teach my child, when somebody hits him or says something bad to him, we teach him to say, I don't like that. That's what
right.
He says. Mm-hmm. My wife goes through diversity training as a manager of a large corporation, but these are things that we don't address. Understanding and tolerance and inclusion at the youth level. It's just not done enough. 17-year-old Saskia Webber that goes through this, or Christian Benjamin, whoever, we want to arm them with appropriate responses and, give them the opportunity to, feel that they're safe, not to your point where you have to hide.
You want them to know that if they speak up, everybody has their back. It's not right. They're not the minority. The minority are the people that are homophobic and the people that are racist. Those are the minorities. And so if we stand up for somebody speaking up when this happens, then we take the control back. But if we don't give them that safety zone and that comfort, then it's never going to change.
100%. I appreciate all your insights and valuable experience, and it's important for us to have these conversations. I've said it 1,000 times, but I'd love for you to describe to me why you feel it's important as a woman of color, as a gay woman in a loving relationship. Why is it important for our communities, our players, to treat people equally?
Because we're all equal. We're all the same, and no matter who we love, no matter the color of our skin, no matter what religion, nothing. We're the same. We're human beings, and we just want to live life and be happy and be free to have an opinion, but but treat people properly at the same time. And for myself, if I don't speak up and if I don't, show who I am, then I'm a role model. I've been giving this gift as, World Cup champion and a 99er to have young kids look up and say, look what Saskia did. Look who Saskia is, with all of these obstacles as we put out there in my past, still succeeding. And so eventually those obstacles, we hope we could break all those walls down. They won't even exist. It won't even be a question. And that would be the goal.
100%. Definitely. These conversations, it shouldn't be a month. It should be a year long. It should be a daily effort.
Absolutely.
To talk about love, to appreciate diversity, to develop a level of understanding. It doesn't matter whether you're gay or you're straight or you're black or you're white or you're a Christian or you're Jewish or Muslim. It shouldn't matter. I mean, we're all the same. We're all we all bleed inside, and we all have love and passion. So that's what's important here.
Absolutely.
We'd love for our community, the Goalkeeper community, to learn a little bit more about you and to be in touch with you. Can you tell us what you're involved in and how people can reach you?
Yeah, I mean, we do, as you said before, me and my partners do a podcast twice a week right now. It's called Inside the 18. You can find it on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You find it all over. And then as for me, you can hit me up on Instagram at Saskia, all social media is at Saskia_Webber. Fire off any questions. If you're struggling with something and want to talk, hit me up on email there, on Instagram or on Facebook, and I'll do my best to get back to you and we'll talk about it. We have to be accessible. That's how we change the narrative in this world.
Can people buy the Angel City FC swag yet, or what?
Yep, yeah. AngelCityFC.com. You could go on, buy all the stuff. We got our great scarves for Pride Month. Looking forward to 2022. Super excited that San Diego's in the mix now as well. It's just amazing. Obviously, you can find me at UCLA as well. We're just starting up camps. So it's a good time. Super excited.
Saskia Webber, we appreciate you being here. We love what you do. We love what you represent and how you're educating, people on and off the field. You're an inspiration to me and many, so the Keeper Stop community, and I appreciate you being on the show today.
Well, thanks for all you guys are doing.
Thank you. Goalkeepers, I want to say thank you again for tuning in. This was an uncomfortable conversation for me. I'll apologize because I felt like in some of the questions I was tiptoeing, right? And that's the point of this conversation. I felt like I learned during this with Saskia Webber, and this is somebody that I've known for a while. But when you talk about race, religion, sexual orientation, those are uncomfortable topics, and we need to have these conversations because our children, our coworkers, our teammates, they can be going through things, or maybe we're going through something as well, and part of that could be just learning how to understand, love, and appreciate and celebrate the diversity. So I thank you guys for tuning in, and I want to have this conversation more, and I appreciate your comments, conversations, emails, questions, thoughts. I want to see it all because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be a month. It should be a year. It should be an everyday initiative for us to try to make people feel loved and better around us. And there's so much hate and divisiveness in the world that it's our responsibility as mentors, as parents, as siblings, as loved ones, whatever. It's our responsibility to help people around us feel better. And that was the point of this interview with Saskia Webber. It wasn't about just Pride Month, even though it is, but it wasn't just about that. It's bigger than this. I want to have more of these conversations. I want to be a better parent. I want to be a better teammate. I want to be a better partner and, what have you. So if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. I'll leave it at that. And let's continue these difficult conversations and let's learn from them. Thank you.